Hey guys, Danny here. Today we're looking at another GPS drone. So this is quite a compact little drone. It's got a little modular camera that can be taken off. It's capable of 720p Wi-Fi FPV. This camera is also supposed to be adjustable while you're in flight using some controls on your controller. This didn't work very well for me, so I'll tell you a bit more about that later on. I'm going to be unboxing this for you, and then we're going to do a flight test and I'll give you my final review. Let's jump straight to it. Okay, let's open this bad boy up. Let's see what we get. We've got our controller. I really like the design of this. Reminds me of a PlayStation controller. It feels really nice in the hand. Buttons actually feel really good quality on this, so I'm excited to test this out. Here is the drone. Here's the drone, of course. The blades come pre-installed. It's very lightweight for its size. You can see we've got the camera here on the bottom, which seems to be adjustable. Of course, we've got our battery, which is a 1000 mAh battery. So we've got a little pack of spares here. We've got 4 spare props. We've got a little screwdriver and we've got some cogs here. These will probably be replacements for the motors on the props. Also got some little screws in here as well, I'm not sure what they're for. And our charging cable, USB to micro USB. This doesn't look like a proprietary cable, which is good if it isn't, because that means you can just use ones you've already got. We've got our phone holder. Mechanism feels a little bit flimsy. Not sure about that, we'll have to test it out. It does go quite big however, so this would be good for those of you who have big smartphones with a case on as well. Looks like we get some replacement landing gear as well. That's kind of odd. You don't normally get replacement landing gear, but still it's nice to have some extras. We've got our user manual as well. You can see this camera module actually slides off and there's some connectors under here. So you could actually remove this if you wanted to. I wouldn't have thought it would make a massive difference to your flight time, but it might give you a little bit of extra fly. Also got our little slot on the back for recording to our micro SD. Get a nice little satisfying click. For some reason the landing gear on the drone have quite a lot of wobble in them. There doesn't appear to be a way to tighten them up. I don't imagine this will be a big problem as they're just there to raise the drone off the ground when it lands. You shouldn't be landing this too hard, so they don't need to be really sturdy, but it's a bit of a shame that they're quite wobbly. We'll see if this causes any problems. You can see we've got some lights underneath here. I'm hoping these are nice and bright. It's really important to have nice bright lights on the drone so you can tell which direction it's facing in. I'm going to charge up the battery and then we will take this for a flight test. I thought I'd show this to you guys. The battery has a 4 LED indicator to show the charging status and the amount of charge that the battery is holding. What's even more interesting is the controller is also rechargeable. This is such a nice feature to have. I'm sure you'll know yourself if you regularly fly drones, having to go through lots of batteries and charge them individually can be quite annoying. So the fact that you can recharge the controller as well is a really nice feature. You can see here there's a button on the battery. If we press this, we get an indication of the battery status. If we hold it for 2 seconds, it goes off. Now we're going to take a look at some flight footage of this drone. First of all, I'd like to say the app works really well. I didn't get any crashes, which is often a problem. The FPV feed was pretty solid. I didn't really have much lag or any cutting in and out, anything like that. It seemed very stable. I found that this drone is not really capable of going very high or very far away from you. It seems there's some sort of virtual boundary set, so if you go a little bit too far, the drone will return in the direction that you flew from, not all the way back to you, but just to a point where it's a bit closer to you.
I found this quite annoying, as I much prefer to take a drone to its limit, and then if it loses connection it will return home to you. This is more often what you would see in a GPS drone. The GPS in this drone was okay. I found it to be a little bit strange at times. When I hit the return to home feature, the drone kind of acted a bit strange. It would go off in a slightly different direction and then maybe come back to me, almost like it was slightly confused, and it didn't seem to raise up before returning to me. A lot of drones do this as a safety feature to make sure they're above the tree line. For some reason this drone didn't do this. When it did work and return to me, it returned pretty close to where I took off from, but overall I just found the GPS a little bit finicky and it didn't work great. Using the follow me feature was also pretty bad. The drone didn't really seem to do anything a lot of the time. It just hovered on the spot. I could have been doing something wrong, I'm not sure, but I did test the feature several times. It did move slightly when I walked away from the drone, but it would never actually face in the right direction, so the camera was facing me. This drone also supposedly has a feature so you can adjust the camera by hitting the buttons on the left side of the controller. I could hear the motor trying to pivot the camera up and down, but this didn't really work. There was a tiny amount of movement, but overall it just didn't seem to work, so that's a really big shame. This would have been quite a killer feature for a drone around this price point, because it's not something I've seen before in a budget GPS drone. We're now going to take a look at some footage taken from the drone. Please note this wasn't taken from the micro SD card, which should have given us better quality footage, but for some reason it would not record to the micro SD. I could not find a clear reason why this was happening. I've used the same micro SD card in other drones without a problem. So the footage saved to my phone, which of course means this is from the Wi-Fi FPV feed, which means you're going to get a lower quality. This is a bit of a shame that I couldn't actually test footage directly from the micro SD, but the footage nonetheless isn't too bad considering this is Wi-Fi FPV footage, and we're going to take a look at some pictures also.
So overall my feelings on this drone are a little bit mixed. I think for the price point I would say it's kind of average. It doesn't excel in any areas. It has some good and bad things going for it. So some of the things I like would definitely be the fact that the controller is rechargeable. I really like this because constantly having to find batteries to put into your controllers, especially if you've got quite a lot of drones, can be a little bit tedious, and then you've got to make sure you charge them up. Also the fact that the battery has a status indicator on it that indicates how much battery is left in it is quite good, and also gives you a very clear indication of how long the battery has left until it's fully charged. I really like this. It's quite a small thing, but it just adds to that usability of the product and makes it a bit nicer to use. So some of the things I didn't like, I found the GPS to be a little bit, what word am I looking for? Not very good. Obviously this can be very dependent on the amount of GPS satellites you have and on some other things also. I just found that it didn't return most of the time to my position very well. A couple of times I hit return to home and it kind of went off in the wrong direction and then came back to me. It was a little bit strange. Quite often these drones will also rise up to avoid the tree line. This didn't seem to do that on a few occasions, so it just seemed a little bit strange how the way the GPS worked, and just seemed a little bit unrefined at times. The follow me feature didn't really seem to work at all for me. I'm not really sure why. Occasionally it kind of adjusted its position if I moved, but it didn't face me. This is not really a deal breaker. I find on a lot of these lower end GPS drones, the follow me mode doesn't really work very well. So I was kind of expecting that. The flight of the drone was quite good. It had quite a decent flight time. I was quite surprised how long it flew for. So that was pretty good. You also saw that I had some problems with this camera being adjusted. It didn't really work. If this had worked, I would have definitely given this drone a bit of a higher rating, because this is not really a feature you often see in drones around this price point. It did work a little bit, but yeah, it wasn't great. As you also saw, the clips didn't record to the micro SD card, so they saved to my phone, which would have been a lower quality. So overall, there was quite a few different problems I had with this drone, so it's difficult for me to recommend off my own experiences. I would definitely have a look at some other reviews and see if anyone had similar problems to me. But if you were thinking of buying this drone, I would say it's not a bad deal for its price, but I do think there's some slightly better options out there, such as the Hubsan drone that I recently reviewed. I'll put a link to that in the top of the video. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing for more videos like this one. And of course, I will see you in the next one.